guys, how's it going? So today on the show, we're finally gonna get back on track and get back to what I wanted to do months ago before I had that axle snap and then had to upgrade my axles just to get the car back on the road. That kind of delayed us a little bit, but today, regardless, we're getting back to it. We're gonna install the next mod on the car, and it's something that's been bugging me for a little while. So throughout the time that I've had my channel and anybody's heard me talk about my car, there's really not very much I don't like about my car. I know a lot of people really advocate for the 2015 and up cars, understandable, but honestly, for the 2008 to 14s, there's really not a lot that I don't like about the car. The only things I can say that I really don't like is the steering wheel. If you've got a 2008 to 2010, I don't like the ram head steering wheel, but I do like the layout of the steering wheel. Just the ram head logo, I wish we could get rid of those. And the only other thing really that kind of bothered me was how it handled. It didn't handle super well. Now, don't get me wrong, the Challenger is a 4,000 plus pound car, but I do know that the SRT8s had a lot better suspension parts than the RT cars did. I remember watching Car and Driver and some of the other automotive journalists back in the day, back in 2009 when I bought my car and I was trying to decide between the SRT8 or the RT. And they said that the RT was really a definitely softer ride. It was definitely set up more for cruising, for comfort and stuff like that, where the SRT8 had noticeably better suspension. Well, today we're finally gonna fix that issue and we're gonna get this car handling like it should have right from the factory. So to tackle handling on your car, you can do it a number of ways. Generally, they say it's better to start from the stuff that's closest to the ground up first to make the biggest difference on your suspension. Where I wanted to start was with my sway bars. Now, I did have a couple of options out there, but I decided to go with the Hotchkis Sport set of sway bars. Now, these sway bars are way bigger and way stiffer than stock. The front sway bar is 38 millimeters or 100% stiffer sway bar than stock. And in the rear, they have 3/4 or 19 millimeter sway bars, which is 150% stiffer than the stock sway bar in the rear of the Challenger. Now, this kit comes with polyurethane bushings for both the front and the rear and should stop the excessive amount of body roll that I'm seeing with the Challenger and should eliminate some of that understeer that's kind of annoying and makes you feel less confident when you start to turn into a turn and the car doesn't turn in because of the understeer. This should solve all those issues. So let's get to it. So now that I got the diff out, and the axles out, I've got all this space up here, all this room for activities, wide open. What better time than right now to try to replace my sway bar, which is this guy right here. Sits over top of your cradle. What better time than to try to replace this guy right now? So now the fronts are super easy to install, the rears are quite the pain because you don't have the room above to get this guy out because of where this kicks down here at the end. This curve makes it really tough to sneak out between your cradle and the bottom of the car. So now that I got the diff out, I got everything out, might as well try to give it a shot now because I got nothing in my way. I'll have to drop the cradle a little bit, but I'm pretty sure I can drop it just to the bottom so that I only got a couple threads on the bolts kind of holding on to it, so it drops at maybe, let's say 2 inches, 2 or 3 inches. I could probably drop that right now and then probably sneak this guy out with nothing else in my way. Kind of makes it a lot easier, so I'm gonna give that a shot right now. Might as well get some more performance parts in that I was gonna put in anyways. I might as well do that all right now. The issue that we have here is this is the space that we had to take sway bar. Here's our sway bar. We just have this little alley in here. Now I've already dropped the cradle probably about 1 inch to give us a little bit more room, but it's trying to sneak this curve part out through there, thread it through that area there and back out, and then the new one in. So we need as much space as we can kind of get there. So any play that I can get on those bolts is going to help me try to thread this guy through and also get at these guys up here. I'm going to take this guy out a little bit. Oh. out. Same deal. Might be enough that I can get it out with my fingers, which would be great. Second bolt. That's a win. Now with the upper mounts disconnected, the sway bar is kind of loose. We just have to disconnect it back here and then try to thread it through that alley. Sway bar is disconnected. Sway bar is disconnected. Now we gotta try to thread this guy through here, which is gonna be fun. Not really. Now, in order to be able to sneak this sway bar out, we're going to have to get rid of this little bracket that holds the brake line, because as I try to get this out, I don't know how well you can see that, in here, this brake line here, where it comes into contact with this, if you're trying to lift that sway bar out, this part ends up hitting this. So we need a little bit of flexibility to kind of push that away so we can get that sway bar down. Got a 10mm bolt up here. It's tucked up underneath this liner, so if you get a speed wrench, that is the way to go on this. Yep. Yes, there's quite a difference in the sway bar between the factory and the new Hotchkis. It's not even close. So hopefully that makes a difference. Now these bushings have a very slight slit in the side, and they're way stiffer than the factory ones. I don't know if I'm going to be able to split this properly, because you can get it. It's definitely a two-hander. There we go. Beautiful. Put that in the factory location. Same deal with that guy. Okay, I'm gonna just loosely get my other guy by a couple threads. I got my one started. And my second one. Oh, man, why don't I have little girly wrists? Why wasn't I an electrician? Then I could easily put this on.
I call my coworker over all the time. He's got just the skinniest little arms, fingers that bend in weird directions. Just get these started.
Sorry to all the electricians out there. Beautiful.
Matt specs.
Okay, so right now my clearances between the steering knuckle, or sorry, the rear knuckle and the beefier sway bar end links that we put in is very slight. So we're going to keep a very close eye on that as we tighten and adjust this sway bar. And then once we drop it and put the weight on it and the suspension changes, we'll just watch, because we might get a little more play than we wanted. But we definitely had to play with centering this as best we could, just so we aren't going to hit a whole bunch of stuff like wheel speed sensor, all that good stuff. You don't want to hit that. Nice.
Okay.
Teamwork.
Makes the dream work.
Yeah, 15 on this side, 16 on this side. That's it.
Thanks, Dodge.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
When you don't have two 16-mil wrenches, see?
See, I mean, they were looking out
They
for
were
us.
like, well, who has two 16s?
They were looking out for us.
And it helps that well, not on a Challenger, but I pulled on a Chrysler 300.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I did it on the 4-pole hoist, so the tires stayed on and everything, and I just drew it off.
Oh, that's actually going in. Yeah, I can see it coming out of the bearing now. Yep. Out of the bushing, I mean.
Okay.
Okay, it's popping out the bushing, so that means it's got to be.
Good.
Whew. Man, this is the difference between the factory and the Hotchkis. It's not even close, guys. Like,
Again, you're not supposed to.
okay, our front sway bar should come off way easier than our rear one did. It is easily accessible. It's underneath everything. Should be able to get this off fairly quickly. So the first thing we got to do is these heat shields here are held on by 2 bolts. One down here, and the other is up in the corner up there. That's a little bit easier. And boom. Gotta take these brackets off. Hopefully I've got room. Just barely. These are 15 mil. Not on that bolt super straight. We'll see if I can get it. If I can't, I might have to use a swivel. Got that one okay. Okay, swivel help me out just to get just by there. Perfect. Okay, boom, brackets off. That guy out, no problem. Okay, just gonna take a little bit of masking tape. I'm gonna put that right on the side of the header, just so if the socket rubs, I don't rub and scratch the ceramic coating. I'm trying to keep it as nice as I am intact as I possibly can. Ceramic coating is great. Keep the heat off or out of the engine bay as much as we could. That was a very good investment. If you guys end up getting your headers done on your car, getting them ceramically coated beforehand, really smart idea. Okay, now I got some tape on there. You know we're not going to damage that. Sweet. Nice. Okay. And I got a sway bar on my chest. Okay, brackets are out of the sway bar. Means we only got one more connecting point left. So now we just gotta get this bolt out. But one thing we can do to make this stop spinning, which is kind of a cool feature, is this stud here on your sway bar is 10 mil. So you can hold it with this. And this guy is supposed to be 21, but I definitely don't have a 21, so we're just going to use a 13/16 because it's close enough and I'm not going to strip it. So we'll go like that. I'm using this bracket and this as a stopper so that this stops and I don't have to try to pry against each other because this guy is really, really tight. So if I use this as I'm pushing down on this wrench, this guy's going to stop it half decently. And we can get that guy turned out. A lot of pressure on that guy. Nice. Got it. Gotta stop the whole thing from moving. Thank God they put the end for you to put your socket on here. I don't know how you do that otherwise. Yay. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. The sway bar is disconnected. Before I go too crazy with this, they have some supplied grease, although I do have it in a grease gun as well, but might as well use some of their supplied grease, why not? Spread that around nicely. I'll split this guy apart and slap it on there. Okay. There we go. Top bolt started. That is a win. Okay, that's good. That's not going to fall in your face anymore. Okay. Just run in. Now for these guys, the Hotchkis ones don't have adjustable fronts on the sway bars. There's only one setting. Totally fine. Okay, so full disclosure. when we did the axles, we did the sway bar at the same time because we were trying to just make it easier with the diff out and everything out. It was easier to access the rear sway bar, which is way harder to install. So I'd driven it a couple times with the rear sway bar installed without the front new sway bar in. And immediately I noticed the difference on the rear of the car. Like, it immediately changed the handling. And it's funny because you look at the bars, the newer rear sway bar that I put in is obviously bigger, but for not as much for as big of a change as I noticed in how the rear end of the car reacted. Now, I wish I was in the mountains or on my way into Vancouver, like heading through BC, because those roads are super twisty. All the highways coming out of the mountains of Alberta and into BC are windy and fun, and a lot of the driving in British Columbia and the province of BC is really fun, twisty driving. So because I'm in a very flat area around here, best I can do is this off ramp. So let's hit her pretty hard. Let's test these sway bars. Feels pretty good. Feels pretty good. Noticeably. Man, that felt really good. Honest to God, that felt really good. It's noticeably more planted in those corners. Like, I don't feel like I'm leaning, you know what I mean? It feels considerably more solid in those corners. And one last question, would I recommend doing this modification? Honestly, I don't see a downside to it. If you're looking for a little bit better handling out of your Challenger, or you're tired of people saying that Challengers can't take a corner, or that they're only good in a straight line, the whole you drive a boat, all that kind of stuff. Honestly, this is one big way to fix your handling. Now, you're gonna see more bang for your buck and more drastic change on this in the RT than you will, for example, a Hellcat Red Eye or something like that, because they came with stiffer sway bars from the factory. But still, I can't see there being a downside to this modification. When you're just driving around, it doesn't change your handling in any negative kind of way. You really can't tell until you go to throw it in a hard corner, and then all of a sudden it just tracks where you want it to track, which is great. It just has no negative effect whatsoever, except for it makes your car handle better. So if you were thinking about doing sway bars, honestly, I 100% recommend it, because it made a drastic difference on this car. It already handles so much better. It's great. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for following me along on this one, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.